Hi, I'm Steph Berwick and this is Dianne Monaghan. Our sons form the terrible trio. You might have seen actually one of the families was on the film, Josh. Yeah, he's the third member of our son's household. What I'm going to do is just say how we first came to be together. We belong to a support group that we started. Oh, we didn't start, but we joined it, called ANSWER, Adults Needing Supported Accommodation. Bit closer, sorry. It's like conducting a school assembly. Yes, so there were about 10 families and we were all older parents, most of us over that horrible thing, 60. And we all decided that our common goal was to have some supported accommodation for our children so that when we die, they have some form of stable and secure housing. So that's how we first met. And after much talking, Dianne and I realised our sons actually knew each other. They went to the same community participation day program. So that was a big help. And yeah, I've got my notes here. Sorry. Yes, so with the support of the group, we all talked about what we as parents would like. We all have different ideas. And we're not saying our solution is the one everyone should have. It suits us. Our 3 sons are in a house that has, we've got support workers now through NDIS. It's fantastic. Other people want to keep their children in their own home with support. So there are lots of different models. We think ours is pretty great. But it's taken a long time of planning. It took us 2 years of planning and talking.
And lots of coffee.
And lots of coffee and cake. So yes, it took us 2 years to get to this point, and one day we just decided, after 18 months of talking, Dianne said we should make a date to start this on the road. So we said, okay, July the 1st. That's it. This was last year, July the 1st. And yeah, Dianne can take over from that.
Okay. With our group, the ANSWER group, it helped us on our journey to understand what we needed to do for the NDIS. Now, with the NDIS, I think one of the biggest things that I found was our change in thinking from the funding that we were receiving to the funding we are now getting. It was a big mind change in that we had block funding, flexible respite funding. My son has complex medical needs, so we had Q funding. So when we got the plan, when we went in to do our plan, what we found hard was we lost all that. That was what we knew for years and years. So the plan took into account his day program funding, his block funding, all that sort of stuff. And before we went in, what we had to realise is we had to know what that funding was. Because one of the things with the NDIS is continuity of care. So what he was having before we went in, he had to have basically after, and if not, more improved. So we did that. We found exactly what we needed. And through the ANSWER group, we worked through a process, and it was my life. And with that, we needed to ask our young men what they wanted. They had no idea, really. No one had ever asked them. We just assume what they want. But NDIS talk to them. They want to know what they want.
Yeah, they don't ask you.
They talk to them.
Your child.
Which we kind of found hard because, I mean, our boys can speak and, understand. A lot of people can't. So we sort of, over a period of 12 months, we went through this My Life thing, just asking questions, letting them absorb, what it means to say what I want in the future, where I want to be, and things like that. We wanted to set up our boys in something that would give them, security in the future. No one could take it away from them.
But we hadn't actually asked them.
We hadn't actually asked them.
If they wanted to do the same thing.
That's right. So in this process, we had to go back and do that, which we did. So by the time we went to the NDIA, they could express, yes, they do want to do this. You know, they do want to have their day program. They do like doing this and they do like doing that because that's the basis of their plan. Now, with the plan, what we found we had to, were advised to do was keep our plan simple. Don't complicate it, just as simple as you want to do it. And now that you're still 18 months out from your time you go do your plan, so it's a good time now to maybe start a diary of just daily activities, simple things like, you know, what worked today or what didn't. Take some pictures. Where
start a Facebook page.
Oh, yeah, the boys have started a Facebook page.
So you've actually got visual, not evidence, but you can show your planner that actually they are working towards being independent, and it's a great thing. And our planner is wonderful, and we each prepared a booklet when we went into our first plan with pictures, the My Life thing saying, you know, what their likes, dislikes, their plans for the future. And he said that was the most amazing help in getting to know what our sons needed.
And the thing is, when you go in for your plans, as they were talking about, is goals. That is the key, the linchpin to your plan, because each goal corresponds to a line of your funding. And if you don't have that in there, you won't get any funding for it. It must be in there. And the goals have to be what they call SMART. Now, that means it needs to be specific, you know, a specific goal. And then the goal needs to be in some way to be able to be measurable. That, you know, you have to be able to say, you know, what, be measurable. Then it has to be also achievable. Don't set unrealistic goals.
It won't work.
It won't work. You lose the funding for that. It's just really hard to do that. And it also, you need to put a time frame on what your goal is, so that from when you start, you have your documentation. This is where we start. This is, you know, pictures, words, whatever. And then at the end of the time frame, you have to be able to come back and say, this has worked because, or it has not worked because. And because it hasn't worked, we realise we need to put this into place, so that we can justify additional funding to continue with that. And that's really important, because in the old scheme, we were given money for respite. We didn't have to account for it. Now, to get the funding, we need to really account for the funding that we have. And that, you know, I think is a reasonable thing that they're requesting us to do. And when you do your plan, as they have said, that the plans are usually 12 months. With our boys, with the house, we started with the 3-month plan because our needs, or the boys' needs changed in that, you know, the carers were coming in, we were doing different things with the boys. So we've had a couple of 3 months, and now we're up to our 6-month plan. And when we went to our 6 months plan, the 3 families went in on their individual plan and said, we want to consolidate. We don't want to do any more. The boys have moved into their house. They've had to get used to each other. They've been getting used to carers, you know, their community, because community is a big part of these plans. Because in a way, the plans are, or what the government want, is a marriage in our view. It is family, community and government. It's not just government anymore. We have to step up to the plate to, you know, to make these plans work.
Yeah. We're what we call self-directed. Yeah. We don't self-manage. NDIA has our money, and then we get the services, the service providers, we employ them to do all the support work with our sons. And we think it's a really good way to do it. Other people have, you know, want to be self-managed, but I just found the responsibility of having all that money and what, it just too much for me.
And there was 3 families involved in what we were doing. So to manage that would be really difficult. And in the plans, or in ours in particular, we have 2 components. One is the individualised funding, which each of the boys have, which encompasses their day program, their activities outside the house. That's about it, isn't it?
Yep.
2. And then the other component is the running of the house. And it's taken NDIA a while to kind of keep up with us because we were a bit ahead, because we had been manning the house
ourselves
for 3 to 5 months before NDIA, we came on to that system. So we knew what we wanted. So the component for the house encompasses the staffing of the house. And basically it's the staffing and parent staff service provider meetings, so that we have, and we insisted on this, they didn't have it in the first place, and no. And we said, well, for our plan to work, we needed continuity of care. So we needed a connection between carers, connection with service providers and us. So now they're adding that into plans, which is really good.
Bi-monthly meeting of everyone.
Yep.
And sit down and discuss what's going on in the house, what the problems are, what's good. And also with the funding, because we have 3 families involved, the costs are split 3 ways for the running of the house, which makes it much more affordable. And, we just think it's a great way to go.
Yeah. And with our plans, sorry? Well, with NDIA, they do not supply any bricks and mortar. They do not pay for medical services. They pay for transport, but that's a really contestable thing, isn't it? That there's a lot of controversy about the transport, because people are saying it's costing a lot more than the NDIA being provided. And so with the house, originally we rented a house ourselves. The boys paid for it through their pension.
Yep.
And then when we started this little journey of ours, we always wanted stability and a place that no one could take away from our boys. And our plan was to buy something. Now, we realised that it's a lot of money to put in, and the boys don't know if they're compatible. So then we went out into the community and we rented a house. And much to our surprise, we thought it would be very difficult.
Oh, we got it within a week.
That's when we set our date, the 1st of July, like, let's go out and do this.
A week later we had a house.
And we had it. Our husbands were kind of a bit awestruck because, in the beginning they thought, oh, well, they're just, let them rent on, that's fine, they won't get funding, it's not going to happen. And all of a sudden we kind of said, well, we found a house.
And they're moving in a month into the house.
We
have to get things in place. So we actually manned it.
Yes. Because we didn't
ourselves, we made up a roster system. Yeah. The men actually did most of the nighttime
they were
sleepovers.
Fantastic. Yeah.
I used to come in the afternoons and make sure the guys were there, get started on tea, things like that. So it worked really well.
Yeah.
Worked really well. And because we had that going, NDIA was sort of running to keep up with us a bit.
They literally were, because we kind of were a bit out there, and that's how we kind of do things. Yep. Or with the house, rental. Well, when we got the rental property, Steph wrote a letter to cover, explaining what we wanted to do about the boys.
And about the boys.
And whatever.
And living in the community and wanting to become part of a community. That's a really important thing. And
6 months lease was first, and the fathers signed the lease, and then we just...
So if you've got any questions, pop your hand up. I know there'll be burning questions with these speakers, so...
so we got the lease for 6 months, and then we continued on. So the people who had bought the house had only just bought it. They were happy to have them there. But
great. The rent's paid on time.
Yeah, there's no
problems. The neighbours were wonderful. They thought our boys were the best tenants ever.
And they've
no wild parties, no...
Yeah, nothing like that.
What they had before. The boys mixed in the community. The guys in Coles knew them quite well. They worked out, the barber, they worked out how to use it, that quick checkout thing or whatever. So they were building up a community. Until one day I saw a house in the same street, which I kind of eyed off. I thought, that'd be lovely for the boys. It came up for sale, didn't it? Hi, Steph. Do you want to have a look at a house? So we started on this journey of this house. But what it came down to was the fact that it was too expensive, because it sort of started another
train of thought that if something happened to one of our sons and they couldn't continue on in the house, so say we had 3 shares, you do not want something so expensive that a prospective housemate can't buy into it. It's just ridiculous. And the one we were looking at was ridiculous. Was really ridiculous. But that started us off, and I walked with a friend in a particular suburb, and she was buying a house, and so she dragged me everywhere looking, look, there's that one, look. And I saw 2, and I rang up Dianne, come on, let's go and have a look. And we bought one of them, and the boys moved in 13th of September, and it's going well. It's going well, and we've drawn up we've had to go into legals and exit strategies, all that sort of thing, and you have to do that as well. It's like planning for the NDIA. Planning is all.
And when we were looking at this expensive house we couldn't afford, it brought out the fact that we talked about, obviously, we procrastinated and to and fro, that we would have to set up a structure for the boys that, as I said, no one could take it away from them. So we set up a unit trust, and the parents are shareholders in that, and there's a company over top of that. So when we pass on, that company exists, and the people we put in place will take that over. We'll continue. So
if your child is safe in that house, they cannot be thrown out. Yes. Which is always a big worry, that someone will take advantage of them. That was our biggest worry, because when we're not here, you tend to think, who's going to look after them? We do it best. And so we've put in place this structure where they cannot be evicted or the house taken away from them. So we feel much more at peace with that.
And in reality, we could not have done this without NDIA. We hadn't really thought about what we'd do if we didn't get the funding. We just were going to do it in whichever way. We kind of knocked down walls or whatever. So it's given us the longevity of our project, because it's lifetime funding.
And the ability for the boys to be out in the community, and they're going to be supported in that house no matter what happens. My son has a quite severe mental health problem at the moment. Or not at the moment, he's just got it. And it stretches, like we've got these amazing support workers that put up with so much rubbish from him. It's just amazing, but he's there in the house. He's still there in the house. And I just find that a testament to the support workers and the NDIA for letting my son have the opportunity to move out from home, even though he doesn't really want it, move out from home and become part of a community that I know will support him when I'm not here.
I guess it leads into exploring different ideas, and my daughter is severely intellectually disabled and physically as well, but she's able, she's mobile, able to get around, but she needs most things done for her. But it opens up the idea of forming a relationship with an organisation like Queensland Housing. If a few people, disabled people, were able to access a house through them, it opens up all sorts of ideas.
There's a whole lot of opportunities out there, because the other thing with the NDIA is what's called circle of support. Now, to me, that's kind of hard work. Both of us.
What support?
Circle of support. What it is, it's you have an individual, and then it's the people around them who support them. And that's the idea of the community, you know, coming in and assisting. Well, what we've done with the house, we've brought 3 families together. You know, 3 boys, 3 families. Some of us are about 10 brothers and sisters. Yeah, and then you've got this huge family. And what it has enabled us to do is take time out. You know, because Steph went to New Zealand for a period of, you know, for a few days. Didn't last quite as long, but but they did get away. I've been to Vanuatu for a week, and Steph was on call, and Josh's dad has been away for what 10 weeks, yeah. But we were there to support that, and he has a mother as well as, you know, his stepmother, and that has worked really well. And one of the benefits we've found by doing what we've been doing, and through the NDIA giving us this support, is that for me and for Steph, for the last 26 to 28 years, one about the biggest role we've had is as a carer, and parents second. And even with Michael, my son's on dialysis, he has renal failure, I was his nurse. So it was nurse, carer, mother. And what we've found, particularly the last few months, is that our roles have changed. It's beautiful. We have now reverted to parent, carer. And it's really nice that when we see our sons, we have quality time. That carer role's gone. You know, and he rings up and goes, I miss you. And you kind of melt, even though he's run up half a dozen times during the day wanting to know what we do. But it is really, really nice.
But after 26 years, 28 years, it is just, it's wonderful to see them blossoming, but also to have a bit of time to yourself. You know, just to even sit in the backyard with a cup of coffee, read the paper, glass of wine, or a scotch. Yes, so it provides you with that time. And NDIA, the other thing I was going to say is your planner is so important. If you have a good planner, which we have, and you work as a team, it works out fantastically. The one thing I've seen is a few, and I know you get, and I've done it too, you get really frustrated, you get angry, and you want things done. But if you go in with that attitude, like, I want this, you've got to give it to me, and I know how I'd be going, no. So if you work as a team together, it works out spectacularly well. And that's been our experience. And I think if you can, and you can work out things together. Yeah, you don't have to build up brick walls. You need a good planner who understands, but you need a planner who understands your child's disability. I think that's quite important. Our planner has worked in mental health. And he's a nurse. So
assists me with my son.
And my son with the mental health issues. So he understands what's going on with them, because Fraz has just been in hospital for 10 weeks trying to fix up medications. So he knows that, you know, that's what will happen periodically, and we have to learn that too. Periodically, our kids might be in and out of the house due to different considerations.
And the other thing some other people have said to us too is the fact that their planner didn't understand the disability. So what they did, you know, after the first planning session, they went back and all rung up and said, no, this is not working. Can I have a planner that understands my disability? Because a friend of mine, her son's got Angelman syndrome, and he's in a group home, and the planner really didn't have a concept of what it was. So the second planner came along was very different. And a number of people have done that. Not everybody understands everything, you know, it's, with the disabilities. It's quite a big field. Yes.
Do any of your sons go to a workshop?
Yes. Josh, that you saw in the video, he goes to a program called House with No Steps, and he does that 5 days a week. Fraser and Michael both go to a day program. Now, in that day program, they do different things. Part of the component, and it's in with NDIA, is living skills. And they go to the house, and on the Mondays, for instance, this is in their plan, their living skills, and to live in the house, they're learning to plan their meals, like do menus for the week, work out how much money they need to get out the bank for their the shopping, their bus fares, and also
every Friday night, our boys go to the pub or a restaurant for dinner. That's their night out. They go with a carer. They call it pub night. So Michael can't come home until Saturday, get the train home, which is really nice, and they look forward to that. And they didn't have that before. So that's their community inclusion.
A debit card, so their money's deposited in their card. So they've learnt to their PIN number. They go out and get their shopping money and weekly money that they need for their program and their nights out and whatever. And that's been a massive independent step for them to take.
And that's when, like we were saying, that the goals are measurable. So what we did with that, the carers do like a little task sheet. Well, just quickly. But where they actually just, at the end of the shift, they'll just say, oh, this worked, this didn't, whatever. And that we take that back to NDIA. Really simple, measurable things that it's achievable, which is really good. Seeing we've gone over time, there's one thing I'd like to say. My husband has said this, and this is what we've found by doing the Junction Project. Who loves our children the most? We do. Who looks after our children the best? We do. Who are the ones who hinder their development the most? We do. Because we have become too close to them and are coloured by our experience. And we have found this, doing this project, our boys have exceeded our expectations. We know that they will need some form of care, the rest of their life, but we're still not sure what level that will be, and it's still a big journey ahead of us.
One of your sons needed to spend time in the hospital. Would you have support at the hospital?
I can answer that, saying I have just done that. Yeah. Yes, my son had to go. He had medication problems and he ended up being in hospital a lot longer than we thought. So what happened with the NDIA money, because he has support workers from his day program, they used to go up in the morning and do their day from 9 till 2, and then I would come in and take over after that. And that happened 5 days a week. And they also said they would go in at weekends, but I thought that was a bit unfair that they went and spent their weekends there. So, yeah, it was fantastic. He was in for 10 weeks and they went up every day, the support workers. We had fabulous support, and that wouldn't have been possible beforehand.
So what about in an emergency situation? The thing is, what I'm sort of thinking about is that, okay, so you've got your son, or my son might have support just in the evenings for whatever, because he goes to work during the day. But if he falls sick overnight, can't go to work the next day, how is he going to be able to access somebody to take him to a doctor and to get his medication and to administer that medication as required, say 4 or 5 times a day, 6 times a day?
Well, that's provided in your plan. You will put that in your plan.
Okay.
And you'll make provision, and the support workers will help you to do that. I have had support workers take Fraser to the doctor when I couldn't do it. Medication, they have to, with our service, with Samaritans, they're trained for medications, so they can administer it. So yes, it's perfectly doable.
Say, for instance, they need medication or whatever it is 6 times a day.
Yep.
Until for months on end.
My son...
How is that going to happen? I mean, every 2 hours they might need an eye drop or a medication of some sort.
Well, this comes in your plan. When you're planning, like over the next 18 months, you need to write down exactly what's involved in the person you love, your daily routine.
Yeah, but what if it just happens?
Well, that's exactly... Well,
didn't think about it at the time. It wasn't planned at the time. And all of a sudden, it's needed.
Well, then you contact your planner at NDIA and they will review the plan and revisit it, and you can do it. See, my son, with his renal failure, and he has a number of other things, his medication, he can get up in the morning and it's changed. And because they're living in the situation they're living in, they have carers there, right? But it's quite a rigmarole to get the paperwork and stuff to them. But they're there because that was in our plan. My son gets medicated at 6 o'clock, and then again it goes through to 9 o'clock at night. But they're there to give it. he can't give himself the medication because it's too important if he drops a tablet or something like that. But it's your plan that covers everything. If he's living in on his own, then you have to write down, every single thing that he does, because that's what they'll fund on. And if you have your little diary and what he does and what works and what doesn't, get things backed up by, other people that they know, their doctors and things like that, because they have to make it a safe environment for them, And it's like our sons crossing the road. Now, my son can get a train, a bus, you name it, but he cannot cross a road, and neither can Fraser. He looks, but he doesn't see a car. Well, Michael looks, but he doesn't see it, no difference. And so what NDIA have done for us is given us like 2.5 hours a week after their program for a carer to walk them to the bus stop and in the morning and afternoon, because it is unsafe for them to do it themselves. And the service provider has put a number of different strategies in place, which we took with us and said, look, this hasn't worked. And the NDIA said, well, have you done this? We say, yes. And it came down to, no, we need that. So it's in there because it has to be safe. They are.
With Fraser, he needs one-on-one most of the time in his day program. And when my first planning meeting, they said, we can give you roughly 22 hours. And I went, I don't think that's enough. That is not enough. I need 30 hours. 30 hours, they said. Anyway, we got 30 hours. We got 22 hours in one lot, and then you get flexible funding. It's in other bits that you add on to the 22 hours. So he ended up getting 30 hours one-to-one on his day program, which has been fabulous. You just have to learn the different way to word things and talk to your planner, and don't accept, NDIA people, don't accept the first plan that you get when you sit down. You need to take it home and think about it and just work through it and think, yes, we need this, because Dianne got home and found out that she hadn't put respite in. Not that it's called respite, but yeah, and so came back to the planner with the next session and said, I need this in. So
the plans can be put in place quite quickly if it's absolutely necessary. And then, like with us, we're self-directed, but the NDIA pay our service providers. Amongst us, I think there's 6 service providers we use. And if you have a service provider and your plan's there, you call your service provider as well if you need something changed, and get them to talk together as well. It can be put in place because it has to be, the person has to be safe. What you mean?
I'm just thinking, okay, someone's got sick overnight, can't go to work the next day, rings me up, Mum, I'm sick, I can't go to work, or I've got a sore knee, or my head hurts, whatever, and I contact the service provider. How soon can that extra support be provided for him?
We have an on-call system that they can ring up. We also have, at the moment, we have overnight care. Yeah, well, so there's somebody there. Yeah. But there should be an on-call. Samaritans have an on-call system. So if you are sick, you ring them, and then they'll put okay. Sorry, having a senior moment.
Casual support or whoever.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. They have trained staff who will put in motion what needs to be done.
Okay.